if you can run so fast, why do I see you in a race car sometimes? 'Cause it's cool. Next question.
Welcome back, everybody. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is sizing up to be Sonic's big game of 2025. And to celebrate this upcoming release, I've decided to journey through every single Sonic kart racing game. In part 1, we explored every old and obscure instance of this hedgehog driving a car. And now, here in part 2, we'll continue right where we left off in 2010 and explore all of the modern car racing games. Once again, I'm going to look at all karts and cars indiscriminately, as if they're the same thing. The modern trilogy of Sonic racing games is on a much larger scale than any that came before, so we'll have a lot more to look at in each game, plus we'll delve into various ports to scope out any changes. Prior to 2010, Sega attempted to shine some light on a few of their legacy franchises with Sega Superstars for the PS2 iToy. Following that, Sega Superstars Tennis would fit the concept into a tennis game, and Sumo Digital was brought on to develop it. This partnership would carry on for the big 3 Sonic racing games that we'll be looking at today. 2010 would see these Sega icons get together for a third time, though with a bit of a name change. Superstars turned into All-Stars, and Sonic's name took center stage. This was likely to garner more attention, but there also is a bit more Sonic emphasis featured over the other IPs. But this Sega collaboration was very exciting for me back in the day, because besides being a huge Sonic fan, I've also been a pretty big fan of Sega as a whole since the Genesis. So it was awesome to see Ai, Billy Hatcher, Amigo, Ulala, Beat, House of the Dead Zombies, BD Joe, Ryo, the Bonanza Brothers, and Alex Kidd. And even Opa Opa from Fantasy Zone is seen once again. There's also Virtua Fighters and Choo Choo. And although Knights isn't playable, they get to start out every race. The accompanying Sega racetracks are from Billy Hatcher, Samba de Amigo, Jet Set Radio, Monkey Ball, and House of the Dead, which that one was my favorite variant. This actually isn't the first time Sonic and Sega did a mashup in a racing game. In Sonic Riders, there's quite a few unlockable characters that could be used outside of story mode with 3 Sega inclusions. Ai would hop onto this banana extreme gear. Knights would use the night sky with a matching color scheme. And Ulala would have the Channel 5 modeled after her spaceship. There's even a couple cameos in the boards themselves, featuring Fantasy Zone and Crazy Taxi. All of these can also be tried out in 2 Sega-themed courses, Sega Carnival and Sega Illusion. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity would keep the celebration going, with Knights once again returning. But this time around, Amigo would join up, using the Rhythm Machine, an extreme gear resembling a maraca. And Billy Hatcher would race along on the Power Egg. There's also 2 Sega-themed courses in this one, 80s Boulevard and 90s Boulevard, with references from each respective decade. With that little detour out of the way, I'm going to have to put a lid on the Sega hype for now. It's a big part of these games, so it was worth the mention, but this is still a Sonic-themed video after all, so we'll focus our attention there for the rest of this game, and we'll start out with Sonic on a test drive. He calls attention to his new car, and it is new. No longer riding in red, Sonic now sports the Speedstar, a blue car to match his hue. Giving it a try, the first thing that stood out to me is just how good the drift felt. This was something I was worried about, jumping back into the game after so long, since I've even went on record saying how many drift mechanics just don't feel natural to me. This one is surprisingly pleasing to pull off, giving you a good amount of control so you don't oversteer too suddenly and spin out. It even comes with 3 levels of boost, depending on how long you hold it, making it a blast to use at every turn. Literally. It really does the old namesake proud, with this being a sort of spiritual successor to the old drift games. The items add to the experience and didn't feel too overused, in most cases at least. And that was nice to see, since that's something that sort of turns me off from some other kart racing games. You've got your usual speed boost, road hazard, forward attack, close range stagger, and visual impairment. The progression feels nice, separating the 3 different difficulties into tabs before starting a Grand Prix, so you can easily clear them in order without feeling pressured to stay on a higher difficulty, or that you're chickening out by having to go into the options menu to change it. I got my bearings in beginner, took the advantage in advanced, and even exceeded in expert. The announcer is a nice touch, making each race feel lively and keeping the hype going.
Now we got a race on our hands! I remember this feeling! Excitement!
He's got some pretty funny things to say sometimes.
Where did you guys learn to drive? A farm? Women and children to the lifeboats! Me first!
The hint screens are a callback to the Sonic Says segment of the old cartoon, so that was real neat to see.
When you ride in a car, remember, always wear your seatbelt and never distract the driver. In a car, play it cool and don't be a fool. That's the #1 rule.
Yeah, buckle up everyone, because we're about to get some other characters into the driver's seat. Tails drives not a yellow race car, but a plane that will remain on its wheels for much of the race. The Tornado Racer is the latest line in the Tornado series, with a familiar signature on the wing, similar to his workshop. Amy's got yet another new car, but it still retains that classic feel of her previous 2. This time, her cabriolet is clad in all pink, with heart-shaped brake lights and 2 emblems sporting her name. Knuckles gives up the Jeep life and glides onto the track in an ATV, matching his colors. We'll just have to see if his Landbreaker will break any records on the track. Shadow naturally shows up with his Dark Rider, the same style of cycle we looked at before, the one from '06 with its white coloring, though the guns likely weren't race legal. He's rebranded it with his own logo too. Dr. Eggman again pilots his Eggmobile, only this time it's a bit more grounded. Literally. He went with 4 gigantic monster truck wheels for his Egg Monster. Seems like a bit of overkill for his typical cockpit, but then again, overkill is fitting for the Egghead. And finally, we have none other than Big the Cat. Of all characters it could be, though he does have some race experience. Anyway, I'm always happy to see Big. He's brought along a motorbike inspired by his best friend Froggy, the Green Hopper. So let's hop to it and see how these characters control. Sonic is our baseline, pretty well-rounded, with higher acceleration and ironically, not max speed stats. He's got a really good turbo boost, and his all-star move, fittingly, has him turn into Supersonic. The first thing I noticed with Tails is his steering is much looser than Sonic's, making his turns a little easier. His speed and excel are exactly the same, but his drifts take longer to charge. His All-Star sends out a twister to hit enemies as he soars right along. Amy is about as even as it gets, though I couldn't help but notice she felt a bit heavy after flying around with Tails, though that only made these stylish drifts feel that much better. She brought along her Pico Pico hammer as an all-star and smacks other racers to get ahead. Despite Knuckles' stats being all over the place, he felt to me pretty standard to drive. I guess that acceleration made up for the speed. For an all-star move, he taps into the power of the Master Emerald, allowing him to clear the way with his fists while doing a super glide. Shadow has very similar stats to Knuckles, but with quite a bit more boost. His smaller vehicle also allows him to skate past the competition easily. There really isn't many downsides to his setup, unless you need a U-turn. His all-star move brings back Super Shadow, targeting the race with Chaos Spears. Eggman, the diabolical genius. I just want to start out saying that starting boost is pathetic. His speed stats are the highest out of anybody, but he must have just fudged the numbers to get under Sonic's skin, cause he feels slow in some of these races. I will say though, that ride is smooth. Those big rubber tires have even the bumpiest of roads feel like pavement. His all-star move ditches those wheels and shoots ahead while releasing missiles. Big cat, small bike. I just love how funny that looks. Look, I love Big, but controlling him feels atrocious. His stats even back that up. Guess he's more equipped for fishing than racing. He does have the coolest all-star move though, summoning a giant froggy, complete with his tail, that Big catches a ride on. By now, we should have seen all the relevant tracks in action, but I figured I'd introduce them formally. The first track of the first Grand Prix will be the familiar Seaside Hill. Actually, there's 3 variations in the game. The first is called Whale Lagoon, with all of the expected visual features, but also this potentially dangerous crisscross section and impressive whale jumps. Lost Palace takes a bit more inspiration from Ocean Palace in these ruins sections, while also adding in stunning waterfalls and rainbows. Then there's Ocean Ruin, with shallow water and glass tunnels that go under the sea. Common road hazards between all 3 come in the form of badniks, crab meat, and choppers. Our second theming takes inspiration from Casino Park and Bingo Highway. We're starting with Roulette Road, speeding between giant slots and drifting around roulette wheels. Then Pinball Highway, where we have to dodge bumpers. Then we ride through a pinball rail. The last of the set is Bingo Party, with giant card ramps over poker chips and an imposing Eggman sign, with 4 hands. Our third and final Sonic level theme comes from Final Fortress. Turbine Loop has a grand view of the setting sky. Dark Arsenal gives us a close-up view of the enormous machinery. And Thunder Deck brings us outside, where there looks to be a storm brewing. As nice as these courses are, there's one clear thing in common. All 9 of them are derived from Sonic Heroes. Despite the Sonic series having 19 years of unique zones to pull from, Heroes wasn't exactly recent at the time either. But no matter, it's still cool seeing Heroes levels in HD, and they were quite fun to race through. With the Sega Miles we've been collecting, we can go on a shopping spree. Initially, it was my understanding that unique tracks would be available for purchase in the shop. But it's actually all the same tracks from the Grand Prix, this just unlocks them in single race mode. This is also where most of our Sega racers are found, including Knuckles and Big. It's a bit funny to me that Knux isn't unlockable, while Shadow and Eggman are available by default. They are the cheapest ones though. Finally, there's music to be purchased. Extra audio tracks to be listened to in predetermined racetracks. Besides in-game currency, you can cough up some real money for the DLC that'll give us Metal Sonic. He rides the Metal Booster, a hovercraft modeled after his metallic attributes, complete with a jet engine. A new track is included too, the Egg Hangar, and it's not from Heroes this time. It takes place on the Death Egg, which has been seen in many games throughout the series. It doesn't feel too different from the Final Fortress tracks, but it does have this narrow high road and a sick view of the surrounding space. If you're looking for something beyond racing, there is a mission mode included. That was a real highlight for me back in the day. You're assigned a specific character for each, and just in the first few, there's tasks such as overtaking Sonic as Amy and keeping a strong lead, a knockout battle as Knuckles, Sonic collecting as many rings as possible in a short amount of time, Tails doing a timed gate race, Eggman shooting down targets, Shadow in a boost trial, and Big avoiding fragile pots. There's plenty more too, 64 to be exact. You should try to get an A rank in each one to unlock the next. And you can even aim for AAA to perfect each task. It's all capped off with a boss fight too, putting Sonic in the arena against a giant Eggman's robot. Pretty neat change-up. It's really cool to see a racing game taking a more transformative approach in a separate mode. All footage shown was from the PS3 version, which is essentially the base experience. If you were to play on Xbox 360, you'd get access to additional racers, Banjo, and Kazooie. I'd like to try them out, but it's a shame they were console locked back then.
Only on Xbox 360! Yes!
The rest of the game should be exactly the same, except for the avatar, if you care about that. This game has a strong arcade feel to it, so it makes sense it was converted to an actual arcade cabinet, joining the long line of Sega arcade racing games. Starting it up, it appears to be mostly the same, other than the logo and the coin op, but there is quite a bit cut from the game too, offering less characters and tracks. We'll find 13 individual racers on this cabinet, as opposed to the PS3's 20, and among the missing racers are Big and Knuckles. We do have access to Forklift Ryo though, so it was neat to check out his unconventional vehicle. This is available as DLC on consoles, but I didn't want to fork up the $4.99 to try it out. The console's 24 tracks have been downsized to just 10, with Sonic retaining half of the total. The 5 familiar acts are Whale Lagoon, Pinball Highway, Dark Arsenal, Lost Palace, and Bingo Party. There's no difficulty selection in this one, instead having one preset difficulty tied to each track. There's also 3 tracks to a Grand Prix instead of 4. In typical arcade fashion, everything is timed, down to the menus, and this timer also replaces our compass during the race. There of course won't be a mission mode to keep our focus on the races, but you would get an actual seat, steering wheel, and pedals if you were to play it in person. There's even a dedicated drift pedal. This version had to make some sacrifices to be suitable for the arcade environment, but now we'll move on to console downgrades. Besides top-of-the-line systems, the Sonic Sega racing game was made for a few other devices, with some notable compromises. First up is the Wii. The most apparent change will be the visuals, looking now at a standard definition display, but they actually did quite well keeping a similar feel on these tracks. It's not as much of a downgrade as Superstars Tennis, for example. It's still a pretty good looking game. All of the characters and tracks remain, but we now have a new racer. Not anyone specific, but you can bring any custom Mii into the game, or play as a guest. The Super Zoomer is the car of choice, with the coloring of the Wii, white and teal. It's neat to have this option, but I don't see anyone picking Mii over any of these much cooler characters. The game is happy to be played with the nunchuck and buttons, which is a blessing for this console, though the controls weren't ideal due to the unconventional form factor. I wasn't able to test the classic controller. I did, however, try some motion controls, and it was alright. Kinda par for the course for Wii motion controls. Functional, but you give up some precision. For the record, PS3 had a motion option as well. I think I used it back in the day, but not this time, except for right now to test it. Not really much else to say for the Wii version. They did a good job with the accuracy, but there's another Nintendo version to try out, the DS. The visuals took another hit, though the game does try to retain all the same content. Our characters and cars are the same, down to the unlocks, but any potential passengers have been booted out, so only one Bonanza Brother. We get to see them all in their DS model charm, except for in the menus, cause instead of the 3D car displays, it's now just a still image. We've got all the same tracks, and at first glance, they may seem to be identical, excluding the poly count. But there is actually some changes seen in these, like secret routes missing, visual adornments missing, or different track sections altogether. Lost Palace is pretty accurate, but has no rainbows. Waterfalls are much smaller. There's no Chow to cheer you on, and this center island area is missing. Roulette Road is missing this slot machine center split, and instead of simply racing around the roulette wheel, we've got this dropout section to go through. Miss it, and you'll have to lap around again. Pinball Highway removes all bumpers, and this pinball rail is now just a tunnel. This winding road before the finish line is also vastly shortened. And finally, Dark Arsenal has gone very red, and these moving robos are no longer a hazard, though they can still be seen in the background. Some cuts had to be made, but on the plus side, we do get a map in this one to fill the bottom screen. The controls feel very loose compared to the console version, and the boosts jerk us way too hard, it's almost startling. There's also only 6 racers on the track at a time, instead of 8, so it's slightly less populated. Actually, it feels lonely for another reason, as the announcer wasn't brought on to commentate these races.
Go! 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 Go!
The mission mode in this one has a completely different set of challenges, similar in style, but the specifics are changed. There's 55 in total, arranged in a pyramid selection. Instead of a letter grade, our scoring is done in stars, giving us the earned amount out of a possible 10, and these star points go towards unlocking all the other missions. They open up in increments of 5, 10, or 15, with the first costing 5, and the finale needing 400. Some of the more interesting ones include shooting down robots as Shadow, dodging dancing speakers as Big, or avoiding rolling eggs as Knuckles. The finale in this one has Sonic in a battle race against Eggman, where we each have 3 health points. Going into the DS version, I wasn't expecting much, but I think it really holds its own, so long as it's not directly compared to its console game. I mean, I know that's what I just did, but in the perspective of a 2010 portable game, it's still pretty good, and I had a fun time speeding through it. But the DS wasn't the only option for on-the-go play. A version for iOS and Android would come a bit later. This seems to be built off the DS version, as evident from some track details and the 6-car limit. Obviously the graphics are much nicer, though some things had to be altered for mobile controls. Sonic accelerates automatically in this one, and your steering is done by tilting the phone. There's also an option for on-screen steering, which is what I ended up switching to. The yellow button is your drift, and the red is reverse. Items are used either by its own icon, or the green button if your left thumb is busy steering. There's only 4 Grand Prix in this one, despite the DS having all 6. And there is some notable absences. Amy and Big don't appear at all. Knuckles is once again locked by default, and Shadow is now a locked character. There's actually a ton of content that's locked upon starting, including higher difficulties, the other 3 Grand Prix, and most of the single race tracks. It all starts to make sense when you look at the Buy Miles screen. Typical mobile game practices. I'm not sure if this was a free or a paid-for game, and I can't easily check that since it's been long removed from the Play Store. The characters that do appear are seen in their vehicles on the selection screen, which differs from even the console versions. Another difference, though, is the number of tracks, containing only 16 out of 24, with 5 Sonic tracks remaining. These are the same variants as the DS version, but I decided to wait to show them off here so we can see things a bit better. Whale Lagoon is pretty much identical. Ocean Ruin removed the shallow water, and the underwater sections have less to look at. This jump between tunnels is also much more suspenseful. Bingo Party got rid of this card ramp, and the Eggman sign is different, dancing around with just 2 hands. It's also in a Sonic Advance style. Turbine Loop still has this holographic green head, though it's much closer to the starting line. The setting sky is also replaced with daytime clouds. Interestingly, the DS version of this track had a night sky instead. And finally, Thunder Deck removed this risky middle ramp, took out the cannon fire, and shows a lot less of that stormy sky. The mission mode that's featured is once again changed, even differing from the DS version. The menu is displayed in the style of the console game, and we once again have the 10-star system. Unlocks are in 7-star increments, and there's only 25 tasks this time, likely due to fewer characters and tracks. A few of these include finding gates in order as Tails, dodging crabs as Eggman, and collecting bananas as Eye. The finale will be the exact same from the DS. This was a pretty decent translation for a mobile game. My only real complaints are some of the track choices aren't very suitable for gyro or touch controls, and some of the darker areas can be very hard to see on the phone screen. But what if you didn't have a smartphone in 2013? Well, they've got you covered, because the final version of this game was also made for the traditional cell phone. Gameloft made this one, and as you'd expect, it's very simplified. Sonic once again drives on his own, and you steer by using either the number pad or direction buttons. The mechanics have been altered. You no longer obtain a boost by drifting, instead charging up your boost meter by collecting rings. The star ring will fill it completely, and you can charge forward with a max boost, or even use a weaker one with less of the meter filled. There's also a new move you can do. By pressing 0, your character can jump at any time, and to accompany this mechanic, certain obstacles will be present for you to time your jump over. There's only 10 characters to play as in this version, with 4 from the Sega side and 6 from Sonic. Big is once again left out, Robotnik requires an unlock, and Knuckles is available out of the gate this time around. It's actually really cool to see a sprite-based version of this game, and all the characters with their appropriate cars. The Grand Prix is renamed Trophy in this one, and there is 4 of them, each corresponding to a card suit. There's 3 tracks in each, but some of them are repeats as there's not 12 tracks available. There's a total of 8, with similar theming to the proper game, but none of the layouts return. Seaside Hill is just Seaside Hill, and not any of the sub-tracks like Whale Lagoon or Ocean Palace. Banners can be seen with the Sonic logo, Crab Meat returns to block her path, a giant egg tunnel is present where we drive through the mouth, and gold Sonic statues line the road. Casino Park is lined with cards and poker chips. There's springs everywhere, and rolling dice will attempt to trip us up. And then Final Fortress has Eggman's robots and fire hazards. The rest of the courses are adapted Sega tracks. There is technically a mission mode in this one too, though it differs from all the other games, acting more like alternate game modes. These aren't tied to any specific character or track, and your scores are shared between all racers. The 4 available missions are Collect Contest, where you try to obtain and hold on to the required number of rings, Drift Contest, where you hold a drift to build your score, resulting in 1 of 3 trophy types, Stop and Go, a game of red light, green light, where you'll want to get the lowest overall time, and last but not least, well, that's the name of it, last but not least, a mode where you get points for doing basically anything, and you'll want to cross the line with the highest amount. I don't know if many people played this version back then, but it is a pretty cool novelty looking at it today, and it was a really fun time experiencing the most put together versions of this game, down to the more primitive in implementation. But it's time to finally move on to the next game on this list. Before racing on to the All-Star sequel, we'll quickly look at a game that came out the year before, in 2011. This entry probably would have fit better in the first video, if not for its recency on the timeline. Sonic Generations has Sonic returning yet again to Seaside Hill. I hope you're not tired of this place yet, cause we're far from done with it. Anyway, on this visit, Sonic doesn't have the rest of his team with him, so there's no way to utilize a bobsled. But that's hardly an issue, cause in their place is an actual motorized go-kart. I can't help but think this looks like one of those Lego cars. It's not an actual race we're involved in, but dodging obstacles and hitting speed pads will contribute to an overall shorter time for the level. The next year, in 2012, Sonic and Sega would see the All-Star Racing sequel, Transformed. We'll once again start with the Sega side of things, and they went all out in this one. Not every racer returned from the previous game, but the ones that did include I, Beat, Beady Joe, Oolala, Amigo, and Alex Kid. And you'll notice some vehicle changes. Our new Sega racers are Mimi from Monkey Ball, Vice from Skies of Arcadia, Knights and Riala from, well, Knights. Though Knights is the car. Creepy. Gum from Jet Set, Joe Musashi from Shinobi, Pudding from Space Channel 5, and Gilius from Golden Axe. And since our old flag waver is now in a car, Ristar hopped down from the egg hangar to start and end each race. You may have noticed the name Sega is absent from this game's title. That might be because not all of our All-Stars are Sega related. Wreck-It Ralph appears to pay back Sonic for his cameo in his movie. Cool addition. And our other inclusion is Danica Patrick. Odd choice. I mean, she is more qualified to race than anyone here, yet still doesn't really fit in, even with Sonic's familiarity to humans. Another theory for the name change could just be that the name Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing is already a mouthful, and Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed would just be pushing it. Plus, it's not like Banjo, Me, or Avatar were Sega properties in the first game. One disembodied character has been altered as well. The jolly narrator from the first game has been replaced with this rather hollow-sounding announcer.
Select a mode. Career. Select a career mode. GP. Select a cup. Dragon Cup.
Guess the Wii Sports guy was in need of a job.
Nice spare!
Don't do this to me! This is my only job! No!
He sadly doesn't crack any jokes, or even really commentate. He just sort of says things.
Blowfish!
Anyway, when it comes to Sega-themed tracks, we have much more variation as well. Samba Studios from Amigo, Carrier Zone based on Afterburner, Dragon Canyon representing Panzer Dragoon, Temple Trouble, another Monkey Ball track, Seasonal Shrines for Shinobi, also my favorite from the bunch, Rogue's Landing, derived from Arcadia, Dream Valley, a dream from Knights, Chili Castle, a different rendition of a Billy Hatcher track, Graffiti City, another Jet Set location, Graveyard Gig, a House of the Dead revival, Adder's Lair for Golden Axe, and finally, Burning Depths, brought to you by Burning Rangers. It really broke the format of the previous game. Instead of 3 tracks from select franchises matching some of our racers, we get 1 track to represent each IP, with some courses even themed around games not present in character form. All of this is of course with the exception of the Sonic series, which has 3 new tracks. Ocean View is our 4th Seaside Hill variation, with these giant rolling ruin wheels, and an enormous evil octopus. Galactic Parade is based on the Starlit Carnival from Sonic Colors, and has a familiar moving road with lasers to sidestep, plenty of asteroids to navigate around, and different routes within a shuttle. Finally, we have Sanctuary Falls from Sonic Generations, and this course really does feel straight out of that game. I mean, I'm certain some of the track sections are identical. Its cooler new Sonic tracks aren't just 3 acts of one zone, but 3 completely separate zones altogether. But let's look at the racers who will speed through these zones. Sonic will return with his Speed Star, and there's slight alterations, such as the white bevel around the headlights, these lower lights being replaced with some vents, these big grills on the sides, sleeker looking hubcaps, and overall a more smoothed out body shape. His All-Star move is no longer supersonic. I guess they decided giving him all 7 emeralds was too OP. Instead, rings surround his vehicle as he jumps out to spin dash into opponents. Tails' big grounded plane is replaced with a more traditional car, looking a lot like his Whirlwind model. Spoiler alert, it comes with a spoiler now. His All-Star summons 2 biplanes to shoot down the track as he flies along. Knuckles' ATV has lost a wheel in the back, and the overall body shape is altered with these big chunky sections for the front wheels. There's also some sharp spikes on them. The front kind of looks like a face, and it makes me think of Metal Knuckles. His All-Star once again summons the Master Emerald with a big cloud of chaos energy. Amy switches up her car yet again, though she keeps the pink color scheme. This one's more rounded than her previous choice, and there's no decals, though the headlights do have eyelashes, giving it a lively feel, and that may even be a nod to our old friend Breeze. The All-Star move radiates hearts, and Amy chucks her Pico Pico hammer at anyone in her way. Shadow surprisingly gave up his motorcycle. He is now in a very tank-like gun vehicle, with treads around all 8 wheels. There's also a giant antenna on the back, likely for military communication, but it makes me look at it like a remote-controlled toy car. Shadow's All-Star move also removes his super form, instead electrifying his vehicle, sending out destructive red pulses. And lastly, we have Dr. Eggman. No more monster truck for him. He's now got 6 smaller wheels, 3 in a row, and the body is no longer his Eggmobile, now red with an icon of his face on the front. This looks to me like he's driving a giant Motobug. Kinda. His All-Star move surrounds him with a hologram of the Death Egg while he shoots out missiles at his enemies. Now, you will notice there weren't any new racers on the Sonic side of things, which is kind of a bummer. I could easily see at least Rouge or Silver being added, but no one was. In fact, there's one less character than last time. Big the Cat didn't show up to race. He is still in the game as a cameo, taking a break to fish at the Ocean View track, so it's neat to at least see him. Of all the racers who did return, I didn't bother discussing their stats, since they are all interchangeable. One new feature in this game is the level up function that gives you experience points after races. There's 6 base levels for any racer that gives you different combinations of stats, depending on if you picked Standard, Balanced, Handling, Boost, Acceleration, or Speed. These unlock in different orders for each, and there's one final console mod to be unlocked too, that usually comes with a trade-off of how the 12 available points are distributed. Now, we'll move on to the races themselves, but to bridge the gap, I'll first cover how these racers interact with the tracks. The transform mechanic is the biggest change in this game, notable enough to become the subtitle. When passing through these big blue rings, our vehicle will adapt for land, sky, or C. Here's how each character looks in all three vehicle types.
Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, Dr. Eggman.
The land variant will be just as you'd expect, driving on land. The watercrafts will be more difficult to steer and keep under control. Usually more open areas will be present. There will be big waves to launch off of, and we can even do a hydro drift. And then planes. These, of course, will have very open spaces to fly through. We've got an additional Y-axis to navigate in. Shortcuts can be easier to find. And we've got the flying equivalent to a drift, where we turn sideways as we turn. You'll want to make sure you don't lose sight of the ground for a safe landing. Different tracks can have different combinations of terrain types, and some of them have cool little events that affect how we proceed, like this bridge being destroyed before our eyes. There's even some places where we have a choice on vehicle type depending on which path we choose, like this Seaside section where you can keep your aquatic momentum to get ahead of those who docked on land. Sticking to land though, one of the first things I've noticed is the drift didn't feel as smooth as in the first All-Stars racing. This could be down to whichever stats I had active at the time, but overall, it felt a bit less satisfying to pull off. That's not to say I didn't get used to it over time though, it still functions well. One weird quirk about the controls is there is no D-pad support in this one, which is a shame, cause that's how I ended up steering most of the time in the other game. It just had more precision than the PS3 analog stick. What makes this annoying though, is there is nothing assigned to the D-pad at all, making this absence of control choices completely pointless. Funny, I feel like I just talked about this in Shadow Generations. 12 years on, some things never change. What did change, in this game anyway, is we get a stronger starting boost. There was a boost before, for a well-timed button press, but now we get 3 levels. If we pump the accelerator just before the number is counted, we can build up to a level 3 power boost for a stronger start. These boosts took another form too, with tricks. You may have noticed I didn't mention these in the first section, and that is because I genuinely didn't know these were possible that whole playthrough. Even half of this one, I went unaware. I don't know if this mechanic was explained anywhere. It definitely isn't in either test drive. Anyway, in the first game, these were performed using the brake pedal for a boost. The style of trick performed will vary depending on your character, with the most notable example having us jump out from our seats. In this one, you can flick the right analog stick instead, giving us a more consistent action across all racers that have our cars doing some crazy rotations. I don't know if a roll or a flip make a difference, but I've gotten up to 4 flips in a row for a very powerful boost. Just be sure you can land these tricks. But if you're not on land, or sea for that matter, you can head straight towards an obstacle and do a barrel roll out of the way at just the last second to pull off a flying boost. Dangerous, but it works. The items are completely refreshed, with many of them being directional, where you can shoot them forward, throw them backwards, or leave them in place for another racer to run into. These have been completely overhauled from the last game. There is of course similarities. The speed shoe is now a generic boost. The punching glove turned into a firework, or a snowball. The shield became a baseball glove. and the traffic cone is now a blowfish.
Blowfish!
Though these aren't all one-to-one. The new ones are a slow drone that apparently you can dodge, but I have a low success rate of it. A pressurized booster that can backfire if you get too greedy. A swarm of hornets that block sections of the track, and a twister that completely flips your controls. This should be illegal, as this one little item has cost me quite a few races. I liked how the first one did it, where the whole screen was flipped. That made the effect much more visually apparent and was easier to adapt to. With more open track sections, it can be difficult to know your way around before you learn each course completely. So to remedy that a bit, there is now an on-screen minimap you can glance at that even shows alternate routes. So that helps to keep us on the right track. Though I guess we should move on and look at how we'll forge our way forward for the rest of the game. The Grand Prix was basically our main course for the other game, but this time around, it takes a back seat to another mode called World Tour. This is essentially a rework of our familiar mission modes, with plenty of single races thrown in too. Some of our challenges will include boost and drift contests that are a bit more structured than the ones seen previously. Elimination rounds, where we each have 3 health and attack each other. Traffic attack, which requires a ton of dodging. Sprints, which are essentially ghost races. Rival races, where we race characters one at a time in order. And tank battles that are really annoying, but they do allow you to take your time. None of these missions are character specific, so you can choose whichever driver and stat build you want to best accomplish the task at hand. This mode has an emphasis on progression, which requires you to collect the appropriate number of stars to continue on. This star collection system is different from the prior game's DS and mobile versions though. Instead of earning a letter rank or obtaining a calculated star number, you choose your difficulty first, which determines your prize number of stars. 1 for easy, 2 for medium, 3 for hard, and all you have to do is win. There is no ranking system like the single, double, and triple A's from before. It's either you get your stars, or you don't. Apart from moving forward, these star counts account for most of our unlocks in this game. And more importantly, there's character unlocks. Shadow is among those who are obtained this way. There is no shop in this one, so you'll want to master this mode to obtain everything. Music tracks are out in this game, and single race tracks are unlocked simply by finishing a race on the appropriate course. Starting with just our 1-star C-Class missions, this will allow us to make it all the way through the main course of our selection map, but will stop us just shy of the end. We'll have to get more than double our star count to proceed, which is done by replaying each on B-Class and taking advantage of any newly opened routes. We now have just enough to open that gate and watch the credits, so technically we just beat the game. But there's still so much more to do. Besides getting that 3rd star on each mission, we unlocked a secret 4th star for each, bringing our aspired total from 144 up to 192. That is kinda daunting, but there's more. A secret 6th tour is unlocked too, so that total obtainable star count is actually 232. I don't know why they felt the need to keep those 2 things under wraps until the credits. That threw off my expectations, and now I feel like I have double the workload. But it is what it is, I guess. Our roadblocks in this new Superstar Showdown have a pretty steep star requirement, so we'll have to come back later. let's check out the Grand Prix in the meantime. This mode will be pretty much as you'd expect. You play 4 races at a time and try to get the overall best placement among them. But there's a few quirks that differ from the previous game. First off, you will always start out in 10th place, no matter what. In Sonic Sega Racing, you would get rewarded for doing good on a race. Your proximity to the starting line would correspond to your previous placement, so winning first would put you at the front of the line. Here, it's always 10th, whether you came in first or last, doesn't matter, so you're kinda punished solely for being the only human player. The scoring system no longer counts by 2s, instead separating each placement by 1 point, so there's much smaller gaps between you and your determined rivals. Though to counter that, there seems to be much more variance in the computer-controlled opponent's standings on each race. What I mean is one racer could do very well on one race, stumble to a lower placement on the next, and average out to be anywhere in between, instead of having a few select racers to dominate in each race. Basically, if you manage to remain towards the top, even if you dip below 3rd, you still have a pretty good chance of winning any Grand Prix, even on the higher difficulties. You may have noticed these shiny tokens on the track, and those can be used before every race for a gambling chance to receive a special item. Using the slots, you could trade 5 tokens for a starting item, a reoccurring item, or just nothing at all. If you do bust on all your bets, it's not a big deal, since these tokens can be replenished quick and easily. One quirk that's missing in this one is there is no longer a way to restart individual races within a Grand Prix. This oversight was essentially a way to rig the previous game, and it's a tactic I totally never took advantage of. That would be cheating. Though I wouldn't mind a bit of extra assistance, cause this game can be brutal. Not specific to the Grand Prix, just overall. I even originally had a rant recorded here, but I decided to scrap it for the sake of time, attention, and focus. Just keep that in mind if I sound exasperated later on. To summarize though, item bombardments are not uncommon. It's like the game gets a kick out of kicking me when I'm down. Rubber banding your way back is not always viable, as your all-star can stick you to a wall or send you off the track, which is fair, but these can also break the game. Usually it's a failed transformation that keeps respawning you in the wrong form, so you're in an endless death loop. As great as these tracks are, some of the design choices kinda get to me. Like this cave, where you can hit your head if you're going fast. This slippery turn that's pure ice, no matter how high my handling stats are. Or just the Burning Depths track in its entirety. I've accumulated a ton of spite footage. I can make a whole video, but I'll drop it as to not take away from the many great things about this game. But before anyone tells me it's a skill issue, I've got to tell you that I already got good. I cemented the win in C class, beamed ahead in B class, anchored my achievement in A class, and even established my esteem in S class. My gripes still stand. On the plus side, you only ever needed to get in 3rd place, even on extreme mode, so it was never all that difficult. And doing all Grand Prix once unlocks mirror mode, which you can guess mirrors all the tracks. Finishing all of these is how we get Dr. Eggman as a reward. I have one nitpick about these GPs though, and that's the icons. The actual trophies have stunning placards on them, but the selection icons mostly look the same. Gold stands out, but Platinum silver, and even incomplete look pretty identical. Bummer. This next point, however, is not a nitpick at all. This game removed the horns. Before, you could press the button without an item for a pleasing. Now, silence. That makes this game almost unplayable. Kidding, obviously. It's just that I'm starting to lose my mind with the amount of time I've spent in this game. 5 Grand Prix turned into 10 Grand Prix, each with 4 difficulties. All the missions went from 3 to 4 stars, and a whole chapter was hidden as Superstar Showdown. In one sense, that's a bonus, more content, but in my multi-game pursuit, I can only see it as more chores. So let's finish this off with some miscellaneous points. We left off in World Tour with 96 stars from normal mode, and to get anything substantial, we're gonna need more than 2/3 of that, totaling 165. But that's not the only gap we have, cause the difficulties have a pretty big gap in their, well, difficulty. My original plan was to go one step up and do all hard mode challenges, then move on to extreme for any remaining stars. But that wasn't exactly practical. Some hard mode events were near impossible, and some extreme mode ones were quite easy. There really wasn't much balance between these two modes, so essentially, I just had to mix and match, trial and error. Eventually, I reached my goal, and we get our final unlock, Ages. This is the car from Daytona, and the plane from Afterburner. It's even a Dreamcast controller in the water. It's a bit staticky, as it doesn't have the lively character animations of the other racers, though it will collect its trophy as a moving VMU, so that's neat. To accompany Ages, there's a track I didn't mention as it's not a Sonic one or specific to any Sega IP. Completely original to this game is the Race of Ages. And look, it's the Bonanza Brothers. Gone but not forgotten. There's a few other tracks I didn't bring up. 4 from the previous game have returned, but they're a bit disappointing. The first game was just driving, fine enough, but the very identity of this one is the transformations. So you'd think they'd add in water sections or flying segments, but no, just driving. They just function the same as in the last game. Look, Egg Hanger is in there, so that's cool if you didn't buy the DLC. Basically a new track. Good thing I spent real money on it. Though the advanced tricks you can do off this drop-off help ease that sting a bit. There is a DLC for this game too. It once again gives us Metal Sonic, and his metal booster is in a bit of a different shape. The track included is pretty exciting too. Outrun Bay from Outrun, of course. This would have been the perfect opportunity to give us that classic red car. But with DLC explored, that pretty much finishes us out on the PS3 version of this game. So naturally, let's take a look at it on some other hardware. Due to advances in technology, or just general non-necessity, these ports won't be getting too crazy in differences, but there's still things to look at. First off, Xbox 360 has no cool exclusives this time around. I'm still not swayed by Avatar. So essentially, this version should be the exact same as the PS3. Sometime later though, the game was ported to PC with a crazy amount of new characters, 7 to be exact. We'll see Shogun from Total War, Wilhelmus from Total War Rome, Football Manager from Football Manager, and General Winter from Company of Heroes 2, all Sega related due to their publishing side of business. We've then got Valve Icons, Team Fortress 2's, unnamed characters, and Yogg's cast, whatever that means. And finally, a return from Shenmue fame, Ryo. No forklift this time around, but a transforming arcade cabinet representing Sega classics such as Space Harrier, Super Hang-On, and, oh look, Outrun, on the Outrun track. There's even gameplay visible, so that's a nice touch. Also, distracting. These PC inclusions are a cool bonus, but the degree to which they fit in are anywhere on the sliding scale between Wreck-It Ralph and Danica Patrick. The Wii U launched 2.5 months before that PC version, and so the game released on it as a launch title. Nintendo finally moved out of the standard definition Stone Age, so I can't even comment on the visuals. It looks the same as you'd expect, plays the same too. The one feature that does set it apart is of course the second screen on the tablet. This displays a gorgeous map that's way more detailed than the mini-maps on other versions. I even did a race while only looking at the gamepad just for fun. It proved to be accurate. We also get to see the full rankings of all the racers that updates live as we pass one another. With this being the successor to the Wii, the motion controls have not been shed. You can tilt that big old tablet to steer your car if you want. The PS3 version does not have this option, despite the first game having 6-axis gyro controls. Besides that, there really isn't much else outside of the tablet's additional visuals, though I did find an extra mode tucked away in the custom game menu, Party Play. This is a 2-player mode, so I didn't get to fully check it out since I'm only one person, and Theo wasn't in the mood for games. But one player holds the tablet, while any additional contestants have to use a Wii remote. There's 2 modes. Ninja Knockout, I guess, is like a game of tag, and Banana Heist has you collecting bananas while trying to avoid being run over by a monkey ball. We have a choice out of 5 tracks, and each have been converted to a sort of arena-style battleground. The Wii U tablet may be handheld, but you won't get very far out of the house with it, so we can pick up the PS Vita for a truly portable experience. This version will give you pretty much everything the console version does. All the same characters, tracks, World Tour, and Grand Prix. Even the menus are identical, so there's only a little bit of compromise. The visuals seem to be slightly simplified, with things looking a bit smoothed over, but things really do look great on that little OLED screen. This likely won't come across on video, but these colors really pop out at you. One technical downgrade is the number of racers, going from 10 in the main game to 8 here on the Vita. We've also got our D-pad support back. Kinda. It works for the cars and boats, but strangely goes away for the planes and all-star moves, and doesn't help you with item directionality. It's weird to have this inconsistency. The Vita is equipped with gyro controls, and so this version allows you to steer just like the Wii U. The last thing to note in this one is the load times are vastly improved, which is obviously a good thing, but it does come with one slight drawback, and that's that the slot machine can get cut off before you're ready. It never was an issue on PS3, since those load times were quite lengthy. But it would have been nice to add a button prompt in this one to continue after the loading was complete, though the slot reels never were a huge deal for me anyway. The Vita was a nice compact version that didn't have to sacrifice much for its form factor, but we've got another option for portable, transformed gameplay, and that takes us back to Nintendo. The most obvious plus to any 3DS game is of course the 3D effect, and it actually looked pretty decent on this title. I can't show you that on video, though it can get a bit trippy at higher speeds. But without the stereoscopic distraction, the visuals are a bit lacking. Looks better than the DS, of course, and any of these will look better on their proper display. The menus will have a bit of a different setup, but they're going for a similar theming with the clouds. The Grand Prix will be exactly the same with all the appropriate tracks, but the World Tour has been completely reformatted. Scorching Skies is absent in this one, so there's one less tour, and Superstar Showdown is not hidden in this one, so it sits among the 5 available selections. The very first mission will be the same between games, but that's the only one. The rest of these take their own liberty on the 3DS, having a similar but not quite exact combination of gameplay modes per track. There are some changes within these challenges too. For the rival race, instead of it being timed or using that distance meter on the left, it's a full 3-lap race, one-on-one against your opponent. There isn't any tank battles or traffic jams, but there is one new variation called Pure Race. It's a simple race with no items to bog you down. The star collection is the same, 1, 2, or 3 according to difficulty, but the way you use those stars is slightly altered. The ending total to reach the credits is 120 instead of the PS3's 95 for the initial win, or 232 for the complete. And the unlocks vary as well, so Shadow is 16 stars instead of 35. Outside of the World Tour, Eggman is unlocked by completing each normal Grand Prix as opposed to the mirrored ones. But if you do shatter your way through mirror mode, you unlock the Nintendo exclusive Me. Yay. This is possible on Wii U too, for the record, and the Super Zoomer featured seemed to outrun its Wii-like design. Continuing with characters, Ristar is absent from the flag-waving position. Dang, they couldn't even let him have that. The character selection screen has a neat little novelty. The characters in their cars spin for a full 360 view. In the console game, they sit as static as a red light. To finish off the 3DS, the bottom screen displays the same maps from the Wii U, and the top screen will display these anime-style speed lines that at least have the game feeling faster. From 3D to 3G, the final version of Transformed is also playable in the palm of your hand. The first change we'll see in the mobile version is a pretty big UI change fit for horizontal scrolling. Single player only has World Tour and Grand Prix, so no single race or time attack. There is a new mode though, and that's daily challenges. Today we have a Shinobi race, tomorrow it's Amigo. The 3DS system is capable of motion control, but this game didn't utilize them. The mobile phone is one place these movements will never go out of style, so naturally, tilt control is available again in this phone version. Of course I kept that off though. The touch controls in this one give you a big ol' steering bubble that's multi-directional to account for plane flying. We also get an oversized drift button along with our item swiper. The acceleration is again automatic for mobile. We'll have 8 racers, just like the other downsized versions, and our visuals look pretty clean. We start out with Sonic, Tails, and Amy by default. Some characters can be unlocked upon clearing a world tour, and others are not in the game at all, like Knights or Danica. Eggman is locked behind the Grand Prix again, but the Grand Prix themselves need to be unlocked through the world tour. There's 3 tracks in these instead of the usual 4, so that means there's 5 tracks missing in total. Our remaining character unlocks seem to require a purchase with real money, so Knuckles, Shadow, Metal, and Ralph are behind a paywall. This mobile shop also tries to sell us stars and rings. Stars function the same, giving us 1 to 4 depending on difficulty, but the ring system is newly introduced. You collect these rings by doing races. They won't physically be on the track, but they're scored at the end of it. And you use these rings to sort of buy into a desired difficulty. Yeah, they're not freely available unless you pay for free play. These rings also power the slot machine, so there's no tokens in this one. The World Tour is completely linear in this iteration, swiping from one to the next. The races within the tour are mostly confined to 2 laps instead of 3, and there's specific entries for road race, water race, and air race. The character unlocks I mentioned aren't done through star count, but rather you get 1 at the end of any tour. Our stats are displayed differently, and instead of leveling up through experience points, we have the option to spend rings on individual upgrades. Lastly, probably the coolest thing about this version, is we get to freely rotate our in-car character by dragging the screen. Aw yeah. With that, we have officially transformed to our limits, and so we'll jump 7 years ahead to 2019 for the 3rd Sumo Sonic racing game, Team Sonic Racing. Man, that opening track is incredible. It gives off those racing vibes perfectly. It's nice to hear from Crush 40, as this was their first original contribution to the series since Free Riders. Anyway, this game is all Sonic-centered, which is cool, but unfortunately, that means there will be no Sega inclusions whatsoever. That's a shame, as there's still so many franchises I'd love to see represented. On the plus side though, that just means there's much more room for Sonic's friends and familiar locales, so let's get into it. Our main mode in this one will be Team Adventure, essentially acting as the world tour from the previous game. There will be single races and sub-missions, both contributing to star collection, and those stars once again allow progression to the subsequent races, chapters, and team unlocks. Though the most interesting feature in this mode is an all-new one, Story Mode. It's really neat to see our familiar characters chatting in between races. These scenes aren't animated or anything like that, instead displaying still images and text boxes, bringing me back to the old GBA and DS games where the words tend to stand on their own. Though there is some modern day flair, as every line will be fully voiced.
Are you ready to prove to me that you're the fastest?
Fastest is Sonic's middle name.
Yeah, the whole thing's a little sketchy, but Doran's got me curious. I really want to check out this race in these supercars.
That's a nice touch. The story featured won't be anything groundbreaking, but we'll get a good amount of rival attitude and light-hearted jokes as we work to uncover the mystery of the questionable Tanuki, Dodonpa, and his reasons for pitting us against one another in competition. But you can't have a story without characters, so let's do some introductions. All of our characters will be grouped into teams of 3, and naturally, we'll start with the namesake, Team Sonic. The blue hedgehog will return in what you'll recognize as the Speed Star, but there's of course some slight redesigns. The front of his car has a narrower slant to it, and the lights have been lowered. They're bright too. The wings in the back also took on a more pronounced shape. Tails is once again in his Whirlwind 1 style, though it's called the Whirlwind Sport in this one. It's a bit chunkier now, and it also lost the spoiler and the side thrusters. Knuckles is back on 4 wheels, and his landbreaker is spiked out to the max. Looks like Knux is ready to mow down any traffic in his path. Our second team is unlocked upon starting Chapter 2, and that will be Team Rose. Amy's cars are ever-changing, though this one is less buggy-like than any of her previous ones, taking on more of a sports car style. Pink and white are of course the colors of choice for this latest iteration of the Pink Cabriolet. Look who's back, it's Big the Cat. Big has had some extra time to customize since he's been absent, and so he's given up the motorbike in exchange for a full Froggy-themed car, the Frog Cruiser. Looks like a tight fit, but he made it work. I love the fishing reel accent in the front, and the fishing pole antenna in the back. So we had Amy and Big, so naturally, to complete Team Rose, we'll have Cream, right? No. It's Chow. Hero, Dark, and Neutral Chow are the passengers behind glass, while Omo Chow is the pilot. The vehicle is called the Chow Pod, and it's in the shape of a chow with a face in the front. I don't know why Cream sat this one out, but I'm not opposed to Chow being playable. It reminds me of Adventure 2 Battle's multiplayer mode. Chapter 3 brings us our third team, Team Vector. Yes, that's Team Vector, and not Team Chaotix. You'll see why in a minute. Vector makes his racing debut in a rather mean-looking machine, the Beat Monster. Alligator green with gold trim, and a sharp set of teeth. A really cool design for him. And naturally, the Crocodile DJ had to install a banging sound system. So yeah, Charmy and Espio didn't tag along for this mission, which is a shame, but at the very least, they're mentioned. Instead, we've got the futuristic duo Silver and Blaze. Silver's car is white with glowing teal. Hey, wait, did Silver deck out the Super Zoomer? It's actually called the Lightron, and it's a very fitting look, resembling his telekinesis powers. Blaze's car has a very regal look to it. The Royal Chariot is deep purple with a golden dragon hood ornament. This car's style really channels that of Sir Percival. No relation, I'm sure. Only thing that's missing is a good deal of fire. Our fourth, and final for now, team will of course be Team Dark. Shadow delisted from the gun vehicle and opted for a black and red sports car, the Dark Reaper, a great contrast to Sonic's brighter display. Rouge is back on the road many years following her Route 280 pursuit, and her lip spider is not totally dissimilar to the car she drove back then. The coloring is the same anyway. We'll find a couple hearts matching her outfit, one in the front grille, and one pink one near the back. Lastly, we'll look at our old robot friend, Omega. If Sonic's Seaside car was Lego, this one is straight up K'NEX. The Cross Dozer is a good fit for him though, with its machine precision metalwork and geared tires. These are the characters that'll carry us through to the ending, and once unlocked, we can use any of them interchangeably across the remaining chapters. But if we're going to make it through all 7 chapters, we'll have to work as a team. So let's see what team play consists of. So just like in Sonic Heroes, each member has a role to play. The top row is all of our speed types, and their stats emphasize speed, of course. Their special move is Radial Burst, which can push away rivals or projectiles when performing a boost. Power type is the bottom row, and they prioritize defense. They can also push through obstacles unharmed, which may even open better routes. And finally, our middle team type is not Fly, but Technique. They excel at handling, can drive over any terrain without slowing down, and even have a slight magnetic attraction to nearby rings. Putting these types together works to round out our team play, and there's a few ways we can help one another out. You will see a trail following a teammate who's ahead of you. Driving on this will increase your speed a bit, similar to the turbulence mechanic in Sonic Riders. This also builds a sort of charge, so moving aside once you catch up to your partner will slingshot you further ahead. If you pick up an item you don't need, you can choose to give it away to a teammate. And in turn, they can share an item with you for you to use whenever. Using these team mechanics helps to charge up your ultimate meter. Once full, you and your friends gain supersonic speed along with invincibility for a short duration. This acts similar to the previous game's all-star moves, but it's not personalized for your character choice. It's the exact same for every team and team member. This was definitely a missed opportunity to call these team blasts and have unique effects depending on whichever team used it. Oh well. The last of the team mechanics comes in during the rankings. Instead of using numbers, we get rewarded a larger or smaller portion of the bar graph depending on our placements in the race. And this is divvied up according to team, so your overall standings really are a shared burden. There's some other mechanics to discuss as an individual. There is no transforming in this game, so you'll only have to get used to the driving. And as usual, I have to mention the drift didn't feel exactly as I'd expected it to, but I got used to it in time. I don't know, it's good in all 3 games. However, the accompanying boost does feel a lot weaker in this one. We still have the 3-tiered starting boosts, though there's no screen fades, so you'll have to focus more on the timing. Not too bad. There does feel to be more of a bounce to character collisions in this one. It can sometimes feel like a game of bumper cars when multiple opponents ram into you. And when it comes to collisions of a different type, there is now a defense stat that wasn't present in the previous games. This affects how quickly you bounce back after crashing or getting hit with an item. Another new inclusion is ring collection. These classic gold rings will line each of our tracks, fitting for a Sonic game. Collecting lots of them will increase our speed a bit, though unfortunately, they don't seem to do much in the way of defense. Finish the race with as many as you can, cause these will come into play in a bit. The other thing to collect on the track will of course be item boxes. These have been completely replaced once again, this time taking the form of Wisps. At first, I was hesitant about Wisps returning at risk of them being shoehorned into another game. But if there's any game their reappearance would be valid, it would be a party-styled kart racing game, so it works well. They actually fit in much nicer than I initially thought they would. The white wisp will give us a boost, similar to how it filled our boost gauge in colors. The cube will act as a stationary obstacle. The rocket is our projectile. Bomb Wisp is a bomb. This one's annoying because you can dodge it, and it'll still get you. The Crimson Eagle acts as a homing missile. The Drill is an attacking boost. Lightning pinpoints racers. Ghost prevents collisions, though you can't collect in this state. And the Quake puts up stone pillars, similar to the Hornets, though these are much harder to dodge. 5 other Wisps are type exclusive. Speed type gets the Burst, which trails fire behind your car. Technique gets Magenta Rhythm that blocks much of our screen. And Power type gets a whopping 3 Wisps. Void swallows up rings and item boxes. Laser can attack opponents if you focus it long enough. And Pink Spikes gives you a barrier that attacks those who touch it. There's a lot of Wisp powers in this game, but you'll definitely be seeing some more than others. Though let's take a closer look at the tracks these will be appearing on. There's plenty of new tracks in this game, but I want to first go over some of the returning ones. Seaside Hill is back, and you will notice the familiar tracks have been completely remade. This game really does look good. Makes sense, as it is a whole console generation newer than what we saw before. Whale Lagoon had this crisscross drift section completely repaved in not 1, but 2 competing colors. There's also a sandy detour that'll give you a small amount of air. Lost Palace looks even nicer than it did before, and this drop-down ruins section has been altered. Ocean View will be the only inclusion that was original to transformed. And since there's no boats in this game, the third lap will drive just like the first 2. Casino Park has reopened for the race, and the lights stand out much nicer. Bingo Party still displays Dr. Fourhands, though there's no card ramp. And what used to be an extended launch section now has a road going through. Then Pinball Highway once again has big bumpers, but also a giant pinball to run us over. The last returning zone is again from Sonic and Sega, and it's Final Fortress. Thunderdeck has some fiery lasers instead of turrets, and sports a flashier sky. Dark Arsenal is not much different, but this ramp shortcut is made easier. And Turbine Loop is, well, it's Turbine Loop, and has the moving factory effects in full display. The next 3 zones should also be familiar, but not from a driver's perspective. Planet Wisp from Sonic Colors gives us the Wisp Circuit, that lovely blue-green grass and tall treetops, all decked out with the tents and grandstands of a big race. Makes a simple but great starting track. Mother's Canyon has cliffs to launch off of, winding caves that defy gravity, and an appearance from none other than Mother Wisp. If you don't recognize her, that makes sense, since she was yet another feature exclusive to the DS version. The last of the Planet Wisp tracks is Doctor's Mine, featuring the more machine-heavy sections of that level, along with beautiful views of the purple waterfalls. Our next zone will be Rooftop Run from Sonic Unleashed. Market Street takes you down the main roads of Spagonia, going past cafes, under bridges, and weaving around sewer grates. And it's only up from here, cause Sky Road launches us into clouds, bounces us across hot air balloons, and has us drifting along glass-bottom roads. The last of this set is enough to unleash the beast in us, since Haunted Castle takes place at night. Ghastly green roads lead us past clocks and under cogs. Suits of armor will attack us with axes, and these slimy sewers seem to have taken a page out of the Curian Mansion track. The last zone you'll recognize is a bit of a throwback. Sandopolis from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sand Road has us glide across sandy roads. We'll catch some air off some sand dunes. And we'll even get a chance to cool off in a refreshing oasis. Boo's House will get us out of the sun and into some ancient architecture. Some tricky ghosts will try to block our path. And we even get a visit from the Death Chamber's King Boom Boo. Finally, Clockwork Pyramid takes us up into the night desert sky, has us dodging huge exhaust pipes, and even sends us high up a steep road into a factory pyramid, a feat that's worthy of a fist bump. There's one final zone to check out, and that's Glacierland. I spent a long time trying to figure out which game this one was from, but I came up short. Well, that makes sense, as it's only from this one, wholly original to Team Sonic Racing. That's kinda neat. Ice Mountain has plenty of branching paths, ice ramps to ski off of, and shipping containers that'll either give you a boost or smash you. Frozen Junkyard has twisting ice tunnels, dangerous machinery, and even deadly lasers from a Death Egg robot. And finally, Hidden Volcano turns up the heat. Lava lines the roads, leaving us narrow pathways. The remaining ice sheets contrast the magma, and a giant golem attempts to squash us with his fists. All of these tracks appear in a mixed order throughout the 7 chapters of Team Adventure, and are likewise jumbled up for each of the Grand Prix. But if we're going to enroll in a serious competition, we should follow up with some much needed maintenance first. So let's hit the garage. This is where we'll do all of our vehicle customizations, provided we have the parts first. There again is no store in this game, so instead, we cash in our rings at the Mod Pod. At the cost of 10 rings, we can open a capsule, and its randomized contents will either be a custom part for a lucky draw, or a bonus box as a consolation. A few thousand rings should net you the full set. Back in the garage, we have 2 options. Let's start with performance. In lieu of the leveling up feature the previous game offered, we can swap out various parts in 3 categories that affect our stats in different ways. And you'll notice it has an even cooler side effect, and that is that it changes the car's look. 3 additional options are available for every car's front, rear, and wheels. That is a lot of options. Too many, in fact, to go over. So here's a crash cut of all of them.
Great, let's get this party started.
This is gonna be awesome!
What are we waiting for?
Let's go! I'm in it to win it! Are you ready to do this? I am!
That sounds nice.
I am ready to roll.
Give me the word and I'm gone.
Let's get the show on the road.
Nothing will stop me now.
I love a challenge.
Waiting for the flag.
Each of these parts also have a legendary variant, which don't affect the stats any more than the normal versions, but they do shine in a metallic gold coloring. Look at Sonic, golden like a ring. If gold is not your style, then the cosmetic menu is for you. There are 28 paint kits, each affording you 4 color options per section. And on top of that, you can adjust the look of the paint job by changing the surface type. And if that's not enough personalization, you can even apply vinyl patterns over top that have their own color options as well. There are so many combinations, you could theoretically drive a completely unique variant for every single race that you do. Can someone do the math for me? I'd love to see how high that number is. Let's get back on track. There is one final customization to do, and that's the horns. Yes, not only did they add the horns back into this game, but they're even interchangeable. You know what that means? Team Sonic Racing is 100% playable. You know, some things have their way of evening out eventually. And now that we've got a freaking train whistle equipped, there's no better place to beep people out of the way than in a Grand Prix. The most exciting feature of playing outside of Team Adventure mode is we have access to one final team, Team Egg. Eggman got back into his Eggmobile, though it's got a pretty solid red chassis underneath, creating the Egg Booster. And those giant thrusters in the back are sure to give him all the power he needs to stop Sonic. Or at least attempt to stop Sonic. Metal Sonic returns once again, though he's not locked behind a DLC this time, so that's cool. He no longer rides in the Metal Booster, instead going for the sleeker Formula M. The front of it makes me think of Metal Overlord. Scary. Finally, we've got everyone's favorite villain, Zavok. At first, I was hesitant about Zavok returning, at the risk of him being shoehorned into another game. But if there's any game his reappearance would be valid, it'd be a party-styled kart racing game, so it works well. All jokes aside, he at least has some story involvement. His road dragon resembles the mech dragon that appears in Lost World, with Zavok's signature red and black with spikes. Here's each of the Egg team's custom parts.
I'm so ready! Hurry, I'm eager to win!
While we're still talking about characters, I'd like to bring up 3 that I wish were playable. Starting with the simplest and least exciting, Egg Pawn. They're already in the game and functional on the track, so it couldn't hurt to control them. Second, Orbot and Cubot. They're in the story scenes, so it would have been nice to see more involvement from them. I'm sure their in-race dialogue would have some pretty great bickering too. Finally, I'd love to see Dodonpa himself being playable. He's already in a vehicle, and he's practically the star of this game. He'd make the perfect secret unlock. Okay, let's get into this Grand Prix before I get sidetracked again. We will have 2 options, a team GP or a solo GP. Since it is the basis of the game, I'll stick with team play, but it won't be the groupings you'd expect. Your team will be randomized upon starting the first race. This is pretty cool actually, as it helps to keep the races fresh. I've gotten some pretty out there combinations. This can end up a bit unbalanced though, since the randomization doesn't adhere strictly to one of each control type, so you could get 2 speed types for an upper hand, or 2 power types that could slow down the team. There doesn't seem to be any way to choose your teammates. The team gameplay style wasn't so bad in my initial story mode playthrough, but here, it starts to show its weaknesses, especially at higher difficulties. The problem is, you can't really do much to control your team members' standings, so you could be doing great, and your buddies could hold you back. What's funny is if I get caught up, my teammates will likely lag behind as well, but if I get ahead, they don't always follow suit. Best you can do is sacrifice your items and hope a team ultimate will kick them into gear. In the end, it wasn't all so bad, and I noticed our only real competition seemed to be whoever was on the green team at the time. This was pretty consistent throughout, though I proceeded to knock them out in normal, harpoon their holdings in hard mode, and even exhaust their execution in expert. My team still stands. Just to cover all bases, I decided to do the solo Grand Prix too. I figured these would be really easy since I wouldn't have two teammates to rely on, and I typically stayed in first place anyway. Though I quickly realized how much of an advantage the Team Ultimate gives you, and that's absent here. Also, it wasn't uncommon for one of your teammates to slide into second if you finished first, so you don't get to reap that advantage either. The results, of course, had to be displayed differently too for solo. Instead of the bars, we're back to numbers, and where Transformed minimized the gaps in your standings, this game went the opposite way. First place gets a full 15 points, second gets 12, and then it's 10 and down for third place. This means there is a max value of 60 points, and a minimum of 4. I'm not opposed to this at all though, cause coming in first really should be rewarded adequately. I completed all of the extreme solos, but noticed the normals and easies remained unmarked. I mean, I get it, those are separate categories. Guess I just prefer how Transformed did it, with only one standing to display. Regardless of which style you picked for the Grand Prix, there will be 5 GPs to run through, with 4 tracks each. But something doesn't add up though. That equals 20 tracks, and there's 21 in the game, but 2 of the ones featured are repeats, Wisp Circuit and Sky Road. I guess the reason they did this is cause the Final Fortress tracks are locked by default, but I don't know, it seems unnecessary to hold them back and do repeats instead. Oh well. Leaving the Grand Prix, we can look into Exhibition Race. This is essentially your single race option. Again, you can choose team or solo, but here, your team is not randomized and defaults to the story mode groupings. This means we can finally play Team Egg in full, the way it was meant to be. Aw yeah, yoke's on you, Sonic. Exhibition mode also groups the tracks by zone if you wanted to play them in a specific regional order. We've made a lot of progress, so I guess it's only right we revisit the Team Adventure mode and finish things up there. So we left off with 97 stars and 17 keys. Our goal for completion will be 142 stars and 47 keys total. The way we'll accomplish this is by doing specific tasks in each race or mission. Guess now is a good time to go over those missions. Just like in Transformed, we'll have a variety of mission types to run through along our main map. We'll have drift contests, ring collect challenges, traffic attacks, knockout races, target practice, and egg pawn annihilations. Many of these will seem familiar, but the execution of them this time around will differ. Probably the most notable difference will be in the drift missions. Instead of unrestricted drifts netting you points, or following a specified curve to build a combo, the drifts in this one require you to get close to a pole without touching it. A bit of a step back, since drifting is all about the trajectory. The yellow side gives you base points, while the red side gets you in a multiplier. There is of course the challenge of not smacking into that pole too. ring collection, and target shoot give out extra points for drifting as you go. And our traffic jam will look quite different, replacing Virtua cars with these cute little robot guys. I hate them. Most of these missions will have a steadily decreasing time bar that gets replenished slightly when performing the desired tasks. This is really strict though, and will have a very steep learning curve when starting out. The reason these feel so stressful is there is no selectable difficulty. Rather, normal, hard, and expert are all mashed into the same challenge. It has a 4-medal system that can kind of be equated to the first game's letter ranking system. Bronze is technically a win, but will never give you your much needed star. Silver acts as the minimum requirement. Gold just means try harder. And platinum is our ultimate goal. Some of these platinums I got easily on my first try, while others, well, they were a journey. Most of these can be obtained in a reasonable amount of retries, but the worst one by far was 610. I spent just shy of 3 hours on this one challenge. Something silly would always happen to throw the race off. And many of these platinums require absolute perfection out of you. What's worse is these traffic stages have a bug where some of the debris from previous rounds will remain in a restart. Well, there goes another round. Am I expected to believe anyone playtested these? Or did they just have the CPU run through, then set the bar at the highest conceivable parameters? I don't know. But as brutal as these could be, it was much easier for me to stick it through to the end, likely due to the much more approachable number of missions. It also helps that the difficulties are all in one and not separated by varying star counts. But that doesn't mean difficulty selection is completely absent in this mode. The standard races give you the option. You will see we have a choice of 3, but expert is locked. To unlock it, you have to beat the race in hard mode. I did all of my first playthrough in normal, so that means I'd have to replay every race in hard simply to unlock expert, then play them all again in that mode. I'm not sure why they want to keep you out of it. These are unlocked individually in each race, and not like an overall higher difficulty unlocking. Anyway, I hardly mentioned bonus boxes since I hardly thought to use them, but this mode is a great place to put them to use, and can even make some missions easier. In the end, I got every key, which unlocks 7 different vinyl patterns for your car, and I got every single star, which don't reward you with anything. Come on, Donpa, where you at? Well, that finishes us out on Team Sonic Racing. It was cool to see how the modern racing series could look with the sole focus on Sonic. And even cooler, we brought our friends along for the ride. This is the point I'd usually go into different ports of the game. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed both had plenty of ports with interesting features, downgrades, or oddities. Team Sonic Racing was released on the Big 4, PS4, Xbox, Switch, and PC, but I have no reason to believe any one of them function any different from the next. But there is one version of the game that takes things on a bit of a different turn.
What up, Sonic Squad? Today we're doing some Sonic racing. Ready? Let me show you how it's done. Gotta get these rings. Whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, almost there. First place! That wasn't that hard. Just let me know when to pick up my trophy.
Simply called Sonic Racing. This iteration of the game was developed exclusively for the Apple Arcade subscription service. Sure hope that doesn't become a trend. I couldn't complete this video without covering this one last game, so I had to go out and do the unthinkable. I bought my very first Apple product. A scuffed up old Apple TV should do the trick just fine. Going into this one, I was expecting it to be very similar to the dumbed down versions of the other two games for the mobile phone. But to my surprise, this is a completely unique experience compared to the console game. The source material is still that of Team Sonic Racing, so we'll see similar ideas used, of course. Instead of Sumo Digital, Sega Hardlight made this one, the team responsible for the Sonic Dash games and the Sonic Jump revival. Upon starting, we'll immediately be dumped into a test drive tutorial, so we may as well start with the main functions. Our car will auto-accelerate just like the other mobile versions. There is no way to toggle on a manual accel, despite the fact I'm using a controller on a device that isn't mobile. Our steering is done with the analog stick, or even the D-pad. Though I can only assume a tilt or touch option is available if you're using an iPhone. The way that steering handles, though, is a bit odd. There really is quite the pivot to your turns, which takes a moment to get used to. You can drift, but your drift is built into the turn, so it's a little awkward to pull off and lacks precision. It does retain the drift boost though, so if you manage to hold it steady around a sharper turn, you'll get a small jolt in speed. There will only be 6 racers on the track at any given time, so that's half of Team Sonic's max of 12 racers. Let's look at who those racers will be. This probably comes at no surprise, but the characters featured are the same ones from the console game, all with the same vehicles. But just so you can see them in action here, I'll display them all.
I'm revved up and ready to roll.
Racers, start your engines!
That's what I'm talking about.
Ready to do my best! Let's race!
Sounds good to me.
I am eager to win.
Okay, let's race!
I was born ready. No more waiting. Time to race.
I love a challenge.
All systems go.
Come on, clock's ticking. I'm eager to begin.
Yep, everyone's joined up, but there actually is some character bonuses in this version. The most notable one isn't in the main game, Classic Sonic. Fittingly, he drives the old red Cyclone from Sonic Drift, so that's a pretty neat inclusion. At first I was hesitant about Classic Sonic returning, at risk of him being shoehorned into another game, but if there's any game his reappearance would be valid, it would be in a mobile rendition of a party-styled kart racing game, so it works well. There's some other character alternates that are more like different costumes rather than past selves. Shadow gets out of the car and hops onto his old extreme gear, so that's interesting. I wonder why it's just him though, and not our other Sonic riders. Okay, last minute update, but they just added Extreme Gear Sonic to the game. I can't unlock him right now, but once I do, I'll have a partial team of Extreme Gear Hedgehogs. Okay, back to Shadow. Though Shadow's got one more change-up, Idol Shadow, and he's not the only one. Rockstar Rouge, Popstar Amy, and DJ Vector are all unlockable too. Their stats will even differ from their normal counterparts. Together, they form Team Rockstar. Oh yeah, I guess we should go over teams. Yeah, so despite the fact that Team is absent from the title, a limited form of team gameplay still exists in this game. Our 5 main teams will remain: Sonic, Rose, Vector, Dark, Egg, and the new Rockstar, which can be any of the 4 mentioned, though you can't use both the normal and variant in a team. You get stat bonuses for having the appropriate teammates, but you are free to mix and match as you please. On the track, you will see a familiar slipstream that will increase your speed. The skim boost will return to help you out if you're lacking speed. Boost pads will be charged by a teammate that give you an even bigger boost. Or you can be gifted an item by a generous friend. These team mechanics aren't present across the board though. They're assigned to specific characters, so you'll want to consider that when building your team. There's another way to gain the upper hand, and that's with Wisps. All the same Wisps will be present, though you'll have to make a choice. You can equip 5 out of the 15 available to bring along with you in the race. They'll still be randomized, just from that selected pool. So in a way, you can choose if you want a more offensive or defensive build, though there are some restrictions in the combinations you can do. If your selections aren't cutting it, you have the ability to upgrade your Wisps, leveling them up with your collected prize tokens. Doing this will increase stats, such as damage, duration, range, and speed. We're not bulking up our abilities for nothing though, so let's look into our main mode. There is no team adventure mode in this game, so no story or missions either, and there will also be no Grand Prix. Instead, our main attraction will be the League. This will be an online mode that's essentially a 1v1 with another human player, along with 4 computer-controlled characters, 2 on each team. You'll battle for first place in a max of 2 laps each race. That may sound short, but it works well to keep things fast and moving. You don't want people leaving mid-race. You'll get roughly 10 to 15 trophy points for a loss, or 20 to 25 for a win, and you use these points to climb up the rankings. The first few will be very quick, and the last few will take a matter of hours. There's 7 leagues in total, requiring 2,400 points. And along the way, you'll unlock various characters and tracks. Once done, you'll unlock seasons, which function pretty much the same, but require higher trophy counts to unlock Wisp XP and red star rings. You can use those star rings to rank up alongside experience gains. You won't be doing much outside of the leagues or seasons, but there is a couple alternate options. The time trial will present one solo race course with a specific time to beat, and it'll gift you a prize in one of the unlockable characters. This only refreshes once a week though, so there's a lot of waiting around to get them all. You can look at events and challenges, which are your typical mobile game passive tasks. And finally, there is a practice mode, which is basically our option for offline single race. Within this, we have the option to choose our rivals, so that's neat. And we can also choose our desired number of laps, up to 99. This is gonna take forever. In the meantime, let's go over our available tracks to finish out this game. You will see all of the zone themes return from the Team Sonic game, all with 3x each. But none of the layouts have been carried over from the other game. These have been vastly simplified, being very straightforward with no branching paths. There are some areas with a jump, but you can't do tricks over them. Actually, you can't even fall down them, or drive off any track. It's best we stay on the course anyway. Those courses will be Forgotten Temple, which is derived from Lost Palace, You'll see a similarity with most of the naming here, such as Ocean Outlook, which has the giant loop and the ruin wheels from Ocean View, and Orca Shoals, with whale lagoons jumping whales. Planet Wisp brings us Wisp Forest, which represents Wisp Circuit, but also includes Mother Wisp from Mother's Canyon. So Doctor's Mine is represented in our other two tracks. Factory Circuit has flowing purple waterfalls, and Mining Mayhem is even more machine heavy. Glacierland brings us Iceberg Alley, which has the shipping containers of Ice Mountain. In Frozen Twist, we'll see a much less active Eggman's robot than in Frozen Junkyard. And Magma Loop brings us all the icy fire of Hidden Volcano. Sandopolis has sand roads, sandy roads in ancient ruins. Desert Canyon isn't spooky like Boo's house, but has the outdoor shaded canyon section. And Pyramid Path is daytime, unlike Clockwork Pyramid, and sends us through the base of the pyramid instead of up its side. The next zone, I think something got mixed up, cause Rooftop Run is the name of the act, while Orange Roofs is the zone name. Anyway, Orange Roofs takes us through the trellises of Market Street. Underground Tunnel isn't haunted, but has the green sewers of Haunted Castle. And Sky High Speedway really is sky high, just like Sky Road. Also, this is the one exception where there actually is branching paths. Casino Park takes us to Ace's Highway, where we'll see Bingo Party's giant egg cutout, though it's turned off. Roulette Royale turns that two-handed sign on, and also has way more roulette wheels than Roulette Road did. And Fortune Freeway has the pinball assets of Pinball Highway, also Fireball. The final familiar track will be Final Fortress. Fort Thunder is Thunder Deck, though it has the giant green head from Turbine Loop. The rest of Turbine Loop is present in Robotic Rebellion, except for that weird spinny thing. That's in Core Catastrophe, which has the robos being built like in Dark Arsenal. Alright, so none of these are one-to-one, but they did do a good job representing each zone, with some variation, despite the simplification. But there's one zone I didn't mention that really brings things back to basics. Green Hill Zone. Look, I'm not even gonna do the Sonic Forces gag. I'm just genuinely surprised they went this long without putting a Green Hill track into the modern series. Not even in Team Sonic Racing. We'll have 3 acts, just like the others. Waterfall Hollow has a giant chopper hopping over the track. Crabmeat Gorge takes us into the dim, checkerboard caverns. And Stunning Springs twirls us through some classic Sonic loops. Oh, and yes, it has some stunning springs. It's pretty cool they added an exclusive track to this version, even if it is Green Hill. And those signs are worthy of a Sign Oddities video, if I do say so myself. I'll exit this game out with an oddity of its own. The character profiles have some pretty cheeky character descriptions. My favorites are the Sonic Saturday Morning theme song, and Silver's most iconic line.
It's no use!
So that puts a wrap on Sonic Racing, but we're not quite done with Team Sonic Racing as a whole. So let's transition from games to this video's honorable mentions. If you're a fan of the many Sonic comics, you'll be intrigued to see that Team Sonic Racing got a one-issue comic adaptation. It's meant to promote the game and sets up the setting and characters, and even introduces some of the new team mechanics. It looks gorgeous, and it's a pretty entertaining read. But if reading's not your thing, you're in luck. Team Sonic Racing Overdrive is an animation created to hype up the then upcoming game, a move that happily has become an ongoing trend. It has very nice, clean-looking animations, and it is not voiced, so it relies a lot on visual gags and slapstick mayhem. It's got some good laughs in it, so it's definitely worth the watch. Continuing with cartoons, in the last video, I showed off the old Adventures of Sonic racing episode, the Mobius 5000, and in it, Sonic builds his own custom car.
Took a little longer than I figured, but I think it was worth the wait, don't you?
Fast forward to Sonic Boom, and Sonic once again gets the urge to create a car.
The Sonic Speedster's all about one thing. It's the fastest car there is. Gotta be, it's mine.
They all do, actually, and it's only fitting they go against one another in a big race. You know, this kinda makes me want a full Sonic Boom racing game so that these cars could be playable. The Boom team gets more playtime in those cars in other episodes. During an Eggman failure montage, the crew is bored, so they go for a race to pass the time.
Can we go back to drag racing? Catching rings is boring.
Finally, Sonic and Knuckles have a one-on-one rival race, where Sonic drifts straight into a portal that takes him across worlds. Huh, they could base a new game off of that idea. Well, that will finally close us out on exploring every old and modern instance of Sonic driving a car. It's been quite the journey, and I'm about ready for a pit stop. Though we've still got one final lap to go when Sonic Racing Crossworlds comes out. So hopefully, you'll stick around at the starting line. See you there.